That doesn't
Okay,
get
just
it
wait.
there. I printed mine out actually, I'll share with me.
Okay, 7:12, we'll call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of November 7th, 2013 to order. Roll call.
Lee, James Lee,
Yes.
Don Borman, Pat Olson,
Yes.
Tim Grimke. Yes. Don Borman, Bagley. And great start. Mark Mustang, Leon Smith.
Okay, thank you.
Dale Hughes is not here, Kylie is not here.
Great. Okay. Approval of minutes of the previous meeting, that was May, I have to look again, I can't remember, May 16th. Somebody need time to read them, or have you read them,
I
or?
believe Mr. Bagley has some corrections. I mean, not Matt Bagley, Mr. Borman.
He needs a nap.
Now,
You really do need a nap. Okay, Don.
All of the motions, even though I made some of the motions, lack me as voting on them, so we need to add my name to all of the motions.
And if you're gonna make that change, I will add the word "and" between my name and James Smith's name about the third line.
Okay.
You get, we can go from outline to.
Our part of the permanent record now.
Oh, yeah.
I exist.
If that's all the changes, yes, then we'll go ahead and accept a motion to accept as changed.
So moved.
Thank you. Did I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Opposed? Okay, moving on. Okay. Consider final plat of Southwest County Estates, or Country Estates, sorry, plat 3.
My report is really the notes that were contained in the agenda packet. This is the third of a series of plats on a much larger subdivision. It encompasses totally the lots around Kelly Court. I believe there's 14 of them right now.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
And all of the pavement, curb and gutter, storm sewer, water lines, sewer lines have been constructed. The power and phone and cable TV still need to be put in the ground, but that's not going to be a long-term thing, and that's not a responsibility of the developer. The only other thing that remains undone is sidewalks, and as past practice has been, we let the developer post a letter of credit or other form of security so that the sidewalks are guaranteed, but they do them as the houses are being built, so they don't crush the sidewalk with concrete trucks.
Yeah.
Not a big issue. Now, Plat 1 and Plat 2 are actually old enough that the letters of credit have or are in the process of expiring. So I talked to Mr. Harris and said, there are about 15 lots in those other ones. Can you include those in the new letter of credit so the city's still covered? And it's not a big number because most of the sidewalks are along cul-de-sac lots and therefore they don't have a lot of frontage. And I arrived at an estimate that 25,000 would cover all of the sidewalks that are not getting done in plats 1, 2, or 3. And I gave him the text on that, but I have not received it back. And Mr. Harris is unable to be here, at least on time this evening, because he has a conflict in the meeting. Submittal of that letter of credit will be a condition of approval. Other than that, the plat is the same that was given to you by PDF. Did anybody have any trouble opening the PDFs? That's good, because this is, rather than running up lots and lots and lots of copies of paper and being able to get the information out, this is going to be the mechanism that hopefully in our rewrite of subdivision regs will be implemented, that you will get electronic versions of all of the various plats and other documents.
I like it. Fun. Yeah, I like it.
This has been reviewed by Merritt, prepared by Don, so he'll stand by it. I reviewed it and, I believe it to be in order, all it needs is signatures. And so staff's recommendation is that it be approved, subject to us receiving the letter of credit, and that the document here be executed by all the owners and mortgage holders, and after this meeting be signed by the chairman of P and Z. Anything you can think of, Don?
No, I will abstain on the vote, not because it's technically not a conflict of interest, because we are not voting on something that is, we're voting on something that meets our requirements, which we are required to do, by court decrees. So this, but it appears to be a conflict of interest, and so for the appearance, I will abstain from the vote.
Does anybody have any questions?
So I guess we need a motion for recommendation, right?
I'm
Has that been written?
sort of, so I would request somebody move that the final plat of Southwest Country Estates Plat 3 be accepted by the commission, and the commission recommend acceptance and approval of the plat, and, well, that's it.
So moved.
Subject to the,
Subject to receipt of the letter of credit and all the appropriate signatures being placed on a reproducible copy that we can record.
Yeah, so moved. Second.
Second, okay. All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Any opposed? Don abstains. Okay. Revision to subdivision ordinance?
Okay, this will go quickly. As I'm sure everybody here knows, I don't exactly have a short-term timer's calendar, but it's down to 8.5 months.
But who's counting?
That's the revised.
that's the revised.
This is labeled draft 1, because there probably will be more drafts.
Okay.
But between this time and the time I retire, I promise I will have suggestions for updating subdivision regs, comprehensive plan, and zoning, starting with signs. It's a project we started some time ago, and it kind of fizzled because the subcommittee never followed through, and we got into the economic downturn, and that was not a good time to suggest to business people that they shouldn't have all the signs they could possibly stick on their lots.
Yeah, did they go get signs?
But phase 1 is subdivision. You have the whole chapter typed out as it currently exists. In brackets and underline are sections that are being added. With strike overs are sections that are being deleted. That's basically the same way they do it with legislation down in the state. So you can pretty well spot what is being changed from the current. Ike's prepared a draft, and Mr. Borman has reviewed it, because he has some technical changes from his standpoint. He has profession and experience with county P&Z. You may have different ideas about this. It incorporates, of course, some changes that we've talked about in the past. For instance, the idea of submitting, instead of lots of hard copies, submitting a PDF to us that I can pass along of electronic format file.
Okay.
And other documents for that matter. It does, not to a great extent, but to a little extent, increase the expenses that would be on developers. It asks them to clearly pay for the materials that go into water lines. They'll still furnish the labor, but they would be asked, just like they do with sewer, they would be asked to buy the material or reimburse us for the material, more likely, to install the water lines. Because of their nature, I would prefer that our crews do the actual installation, after the sewer lines are in. It's just a little bit, better for us in my
Cleaner.
viewpoint. They would also have to pay for signs that we don't charge them for, street signs and that sort of stuff. That's not a major expense.
Okay.
Cost of the plat also.
Oh, yeah, we've all, typically, we've eaten the cost of recording a plat, and what is it, about $75 now?
Really?
Yes.
It's $44 a page. I'm not sure what the second page is, $25 or something. So 69, I think it's around $69.
Mhm. And if there's a set of covenants that needs to be recorded at the same time, it
Right.
can be fairly expensive.
Yeah.
You can't record a one-page easement for less than $25, right?
Well, it's $24 for the first page and then $3 for every page thereafter.
Okay. I never have a check prepared in advance. I go down and they tell me what it's gonna be, and I
That's
write
probably
the
smart.
check. Yeah. Because it changes, and different people seem to have different ideas. Anyway, this is for your review,
Okay.
and you have a hard copy so that you can make lots of marks on it, and if there are things you like or dislike about the way we do it now and would like to see it changed as part of this process, please let us know. At the next meeting, don't anticipate another plat. We should have time to spend an hour or so, hour and a half, just going through this page by page, and I can give the reasons why I made suggestions. Tom can give his reasons for his suggestions. He has a couple procedural suggestions that aren't in here, but you might want to consider.
There are things that Lynn and I mutually agreed that should be discussed here, that they're more than we felt that we should just put in here. There are things that, they're policy matters and procedures and things like that.
And then, of course, the city attorney, who had a conflict and was unable to be here tonight, also will have a chance to have his hand in this, and I suspect there will be multiple red pen marks from Merritt.
Come prepared for a lengthy meeting.
Well, if it goes too long,
And-
we can always, there's not a deadline on it.
Yeah.
So if you need to, say, take half of it in one meeting, and I can make changes per your direction, and then we can take the other half at a subsequent meeting, then when we're satisfied, we would have public hearings before P and Z, make a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen. They would have further public hearings, and there are enough changes that probably the easy way will be to have a clean copy and to say we delete the old chapter and adopt the new chapter as written.
Okay. And do you want to go ahead and set a meeting for the next meeting? Or not?
Yeah, I would be probably best that if people
Is-
who are here can agree on a time. I don't think probably there's a need to have one in November, because we get to a couple of weeks from now and we're into the holidays.
Right.
So perhaps the first week of December, before you get too much into that holiday spirit.
Is
the
anyone
5th.
here prepared to make a, set a meeting, or is it not really sure? Okay.
I have no problem.
Okay. Let's try it, and then we can always change it if need be. Is that okay?
Thursday nights are traditional, but they don't have to be. It's just that there seem to be fewer conflicts with everybody else's stuff. How about December the 5th? Is that an acceptable time?
I think so.
Okay.
I will tell you that Lynn and I discussed one change in here, and that is to the final plat requirements. There's a way of reducing the list of requirements greatly, and that is to put a requirement in here that that we have to meet the requirements of the Missouri minimum standards for surveys. And those, we're required to meet those anyway, but if we put it in here, then we don't have to list those requirements. The downside is, you don't see those requirements, so you don't really know what's meeting and what's not, unless you've got a copy of the minimum standards.
But they can be made available if somebody.
Right, they can be made available. The upside is that it does reduce a lot of verbiage in here. And a lot, you'll take out a bunch of the requirements that are listed. Because it would be a duplication. it's one of those things where, you know, there's pluses and minuses to it.
Were you gonna say something?
Yes, and I have one more thing to bring up.
Okay.
And this is just, again, for your thought for, in case it eventuates later.
Okay.
There is a firm that is looking at an industrial location in northern Boone County, and they need to be on rail for maximum effect. Creddy is working on it. And that's about all I can say with specificity, but in order to look first at the lots that are along rail, either the Colt or the Norfolk and Southern, because they'd be bringing in, mostly by truck, but they would be using the rail to haul the final product down to Columbia. The most likely spots are starting at the greenhouse property on the north side of Singleton and working your way out. Nothing going south along the Colt and Sunny City limits works at all, because all that's residential and you wouldn't want to change the character of it. But from the Y going west through the city limits, that's all zone B2, which is highway business. If you go beyond the city limits, there's one lot, and then there's this old sawmill, which happens to be zoned industrial in the county. So that's a possible site too. It's not gone so far as that anybody's really fixed on the site, but should things get on the bandwagon and they're looking hard, you may receive a request to rezone
To immediate rezone.
from highway business, which allows some light industry, but not real manufacturing in the term that this business would be. So be at your leisure, kind of drive out Singleton Street as far as the fire district's station and take a look and picture something that almost everything will be indoors, but there'll be some receiving of raw materials and stacking up of freight cars.
How big a site are they looking at?
I'm not sure.
Undercover, I think no more than 10,000 square feet, but all of those properties would probably be sufficient, but best site would be one that would allow for a spur. I'll know more after Saturday. But just think about it. See, think if having industry across the tracks from the Wilson Street building or the old sawmill constitutes that big a change or not.
Okay.
All right? That's all I have, man.
Anything else? Anybody have anything else?
On the December 5th, is there any chance that could be 6 p.m.?
Maybe 3 p.m. I like her, what?
Well, let's not get too carried away.
Anybody else have an opinion on that?
I don't have a concern.
Any good?
So tentative
no
December
problem.
Tentatively set for 6 then?
5th, 6 p.m.?
Okay.
Thank you.
When I deliver these to Mr. Kiley and Mr. Hughes, I will emphasize the change in times and encourage them to participate.
That one, at the end of the day.
Okay.
I've talked to Boyd about getting a copy of this too. I'd like to see his input, since he's chairman of the county P&Z.
Okay.
Good idea.
And I would suppose that Gary Adams will want a copy also, since he does development here in town.
Before or after we get our version done?
Doesn't really matter.
Boyd, I have no problem with it. I mean, he's got experience with it.
Yes.
And Merritt will have experience with it. I'll run off another copy for Boyd. Well, here. Put that to him.
I'll give it to him.
Anything else? Anybody? Guess motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?